Hey guys, welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about Crunchyroll, WarnerMedia, and Gizmodo, Gawker Media, whatever it's called now, Geo Media, and kind of this digital media landscape, how it's changing. We're going to talk about layoffs at Warner Brothers and how it seems to fly in the face of what they're doing over at Crunchyroll, which is basically spending a god-awful amount of money on a fancy new office. I'm really surprised that they were able to do this because WarnerMedia is chopping, cutting every expense they can. So before we get into this, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We're at about 89,000 subs, hoping for 100,000 soon. Thank you so much for the support. All right, guys, we're going to talk about Crunchyroll in a minute, but I want to back up a little bit here and give an update on Gizmodo, Geo Media. They're moving Deadspin to Chicago and suspending negotiations with the union. Here's the letter from Jim Spamfeller, the CEO. This is coming from Ben Mullen from Wall Street Journal. Basically, they said Deadspin, remember Stick to Sports Deadspin, part of Gizmodo? Yeah, it's their business has been damaged by the union, and they are moving Deadspin from Chicago to New York. Some of the employees can come along if they want to, but they basically are like, Gizmodo is hurting itself with this union. We talked about that before. We think that the union might actually cause the collapse of some of the different websites or some of the different divisions on Gizmodo, such as Kotaku. We saw that IO9 has basically been absorbed into Gizmodo at this point. I don't think they're even a separate website. But they're basically like, your demands are ridiculous. We're not going to meet your demands and stick to sports. And they're not going to jeopardize the business with these unreasonable demands. This doesn't surprise me at all. And I'm actually surprised that we have, not just at Gizmodo, but also at other places like Kickstarter, where you have digital media people trying to unionize. And the problem is that landscape is changing drastically. I mean, you're talking last year, 7,800 people working in digital media lost their jobs. And you're going to go to Gizmodo, which was sold for next to nothing because it's not worth that much anymore. You're going to go to your boss at Gizmodo and be like, here's a list of demands we want to make as journalists for Gizmodo, and he just won't have anything to do with it. So that's kind of an interesting update. I still believe at some point we're going to see either Kotaku fold or just become a gaming tab on Gizmodo or something. It's going to exist in a much different state, I think, probably within the next year or two. That's just a personal opinion. So again, this just kind of speaks to the changing digital media landscape, right? And part of that is a lot of these companies are consolidating. They're trimming back, and one of the biggest companies to really trim back on digital media lately is WarnerMedia, owned by AT&T. They've been absolutely merciless. If you remember, a couple months ago, they laid off a whole bunch of people at Rooster Teeth. They've shut down entire streaming services, like literally overnight. And it looks like they're paring everything back, getting ready for HBO Max. And we've speculated before that part of that consolidation could see their other streaming services like Crunchyroll get rolled into HBO Max, since we know they're going to have anime on HBO Max, and they're getting the Ghibli library over there. It's not coming to Crunchyroll, and it seems like a lot of the Crunchyroll content is going to go to Max. Just last month, WarnerMedia laid a whole bunch of people off the beginning of December. Whole new round of layoffs are due to hit WarnerMedia. Their marketing team, their sales team, starting early next year. That would be now, 2020. The entertainment company disclosed the job cuts, which will affect more than 24 non-union positions in 2 New York state filings in November. The layoffs are the latest to hit WarnerMedia since it was acquired by AT&T in 2018. They are laying people off at a furious rate. They are cutting corners. They got rid of the head of Cartoon Network. They cut a bunch of people at Rooster Teeth. They've been merciless. They just pulled the plug just a couple of days ago on Audience Network. Again, this was another acquisition, part of DirecTV. They're pulling the plug on that in an attempt to save money, laying people off in an attempt to save money. So when you see Crunchyroll, again, I don't know what their finances are, right? I don't know what their finances are. But when you see Crunchyroll talking about their fancy new office and showing off video of their new office with a bike rack, I guess, and statues, it looks like, what is this, Tokyo? They've got a mini Tokyo. When they're showing off their very expensive looking office, you know, the internet's going to have opinions. Especially since Crunchyroll might be fighting to survive here in another year or two once HBO Max gets out and gets up to speed. I actually saw the retweet of this yesterday, and I wasn't sure if I was going to comment or not, but then on top of all the other layoffs going on right now in digital media, I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about this, because this does seem to fly in the face of everything else we're hearing about WarnerMedia just cutting all the fat. You know, we've got people defending Crunchyroll, saying that they're paying their people well. We've got people saying they should pay their translators better instead of buying an expensive office. You know, $70,000, you know, outside of San Francisco, I guess is okay. That's actually pretty good. That's pretty good for a translator. So people are fighting about whether or not they should be allowed to have this office. I would say, yeah, if they were doing well. But I don't know if Crunchyroll's actually doing all that well right now. And I'm really surprised that WarnerMedia is allowing them to spend that kind of money. Because this looks like a freaking Epcot pavilion. I mean, this looks really nice. I don't know what part of town it's in, but I'm sure the rent's not cheap. I'm sure it's not cheap. But people are salty because High Guardian Spice is nowhere to be found. Surprised the company hasn't gone belly up. It will eventually. Yeah, I think it will. I think they're going to get rolled into HBO Max. Time to go back to pirating anime. Yes, directly supporting the Japanese anime industry. Yep. Yeah, that is part of the issue that people are having with Crunchyroll, is when they talk about how little, you know, animators in Japan are getting paid, and then you see them spend millions of dollars on shows that nobody asked for, like High Guardian Spice, and you see them go, you know, rent really expensive offices. Wow, awesome. Maybe the money could have been used to help Japanese animators, since Crunchyroll pledged to do that, cheapskate. And yet animators barely make enough to get by. Pirate the anime. Oh my God. Remember when you said you'd support the Japanese animation industry and then threw a contract at your friend's shitty webcomic? Ouch. With art even below Steven Universe standards. Yeah, me too. People aren't real happy about this. So that's where all the money goes. Twitter is not happy. Clearly have the money to get a new office, can't pay your translators. Well, we saw that. Apparently the translators are getting like $70,000 a year, but you get the picture, right? You get the picture. I'm just very surprised that WarnerMedia is allowing Crunchyroll to spend this kind of money when if I were at Crunchyroll right now, I would be very concerned as to whether or not I'm going to have a job in a year. And unless they got a long-term lease to try, try to like, well, if we rent this place for like 3 years, then we all have jobs for at least 3 years, right, guys? Right? And we're seeing that WarnerMedia is already outsourcing some of this stuff. Like the Crunchyroll Expo is being outsourced to ReedPop. ReedPop specializes in running conventions. I mean, really, there's no need for Crunchyroll to be involved at all anymore. Like, they can just job out the anime convention, to ReedPop, and Crunchyroll is not involved. I'm just very confused as to what's going on here. I gotta tell you the truth, because when you see WarnerMedia cutting all kinds of corners, and you see them laying people off at Rooster Teeth, mercilessly cutting jobs at Rooster Teeth, but then to have management over at Crunchyroll go lease a really posh new office. I don't know their finances. I don't know how much autonomy they have over there. But it definitely seems to be flying in the face of what we know from WarnerMedia currently, that they are cutting as many corners as they possibly can. So we'll see. Maybe Crunchyroll is going to stick around longer than we thought they were going to. I have no idea. I mean, hey, it looks like a nice place to work, right? It looks like a nice place to work. Bring your bike to work day. They let you bring your dogs. Can you bring your dogs to work? That'd be kind of cool. I don't know. But I'm going to wrap this one up. Just thought it was an interesting juxtaposition of, you know, what's going on at WarnerMedia right now, different divisions of WarnerMedia. Like I said, it seems like Crunchyroll is freewheeling. They're spending the money, whereas every other division is paring back as much as they can. So we will see what happens. We'll keep on top of it because this does affect the animation industry, it affects the anime industry. So we'll keep talking about it. And we'll talk to you guys later. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.